I was really, really excited about this assignment because this plays right into my area of interests. I was a communication studies major when I was in college. You all know that I competed in speech, I coached speech. So to be able to talk about communication as an intentional choice, as something that people can do to become better communicators, better leaders, is absolutely something that I love to talk about. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to go through the 4 different styles of communication that Toastmasters International identifies. Now, there are lots of other ways to identify a style of communication, but we're just going to stick with these for simplicity. And then we're going to talk about what those styles entail, how they can be used in both group and interpersonal settings, and what I choose to use on a regular basis, and what my autopilot style really is. Sound like a plan? All right. So the first style we're going to talk about is really my autopilot mode, what I most often turn to, and that is direct communicating. These are the people that walk into a room like this and they say, guys, this is our objective, this is how I think we should do it, discuss. You see what I've done there? You walk into a room, you are confident, you are assured, you are projecting a role of authority. And so often I'm put into situations where I really have to communicate this way because I supervise other people, whether they be staff or volunteers, or because this is the style of communication that you have to use when you're in a setting like this and you have to give a presentation and communicate an idea to others that are just sitting listening to what you have to say. Makes sense? Now, in a group setting, that works really, really well. It definitely establishes you as a leader. In an interpersonal setting, there are 2 things that have to take place and have to exist in order for this style of communication to work really well. One is you have to make sure that you know the person well enough to be able to communicate this way. The second is you have to make sure that the person has at least a basic understanding of the content you're going to discuss. So for example, I could walk up to Nee and I could say, I think that Hamilton is one of the best things to ever hit Broadway. Tell me what you think. He's going to look at me like I'm absolutely crazy, and that conversation is going to go really poorly because I have no idea if Nee has any thoughts whatsoever about Hamilton, right? But if I go up to Rick, who I do know quite well, and I say to Rick, I'd like to get our Toastmasters group signed up to ring bells this year. I think this date, this location, this time is best. How would you suggest we go about getting people signed up? Very different piece of communication, right? All right, second one we're going to talk about is called analytical communicating. And this one, interestingly enough, when I took my Toastmasters exam of kind of what style I most often play into, it told me that I play into analytical communication just as often as I use direct communication, which I don't know if I agreed with right away until I gave it some more thought. And the reason is this. These communicators walk into a meeting and they say, here's our objective. Based upon the evidence provided to me, this is what I think is a best course of action. Do you agree, and if not, why? You see how I've just asked the very same question as the direct communicator, but in a very different way. Direct communicators are results focused. They care about achieving the end result. Analytical communicators are far more focused on information, on evidence, on how you get to that result in the first place. But what's interesting about these communicators, they're so often very calm, very quiet. These are the people that sit in a meeting waiting for everyone else to finish speaking before they say what they have to say, before they streamline everybody else's bit of communication into a cohesive idea as to how you're going to achieve the result based upon what everybody's just input, right? I'm definitely not that person. I say what I have to say right when I say it. But in an interpersonal context, these people are very different. These are the people that are excellent communicative chameleons. They basically recognize how a person responds to different bits of communication, the different pieces of information that they put forth, and they can change things as simple as the way they frame an idea, or change the subject matter they're discussing with the person, all the way to changing their style of communication for the sake of them being able to analyze what's going to work better. Now, I'm not going to flatter myself by saying I do that all the time, but I like to think I can do that when I want to, right? The third style of communication is one that I really strive for and don't often succeed at. It's called supporting communication. Now, these are the people that walk into a meeting and say, this is our objective, this is how I think we should do this, but what do you all think? These are people that are very empathetic. They come across as very approachable, very kind, very gentle, and these are the people in a meeting that really butt heads with direct communicators. A direct communicator is going to plow right through an issue, plow right over another person, and the supporting communicator is going to be the person that says, well, wait, this person had a really great idea. I think we should listen to what they have to say. They're incredible diplomats, and these are people that you really need in an office, especially full of really strong personalities, right? And then in an interpersonal setting, these are people that everyone wants to be friends with. If you have an approachable person that genuinely cares about the things that you have to say and can express themselves in such a way that rather than stating what they have to say and then asking what you think about their statement, they just ask you a question. What do you think about that? Oh, how was your day? What's going on? Talking in that kind of a manner, talking through questions. A really great example of this is I have a really good friend who lives out in Denver, Colorado. Her name is Rudy. And this girl is a very impulsive human being. She got engaged to a man that she had only known for 6 months, several months ago. I had lots to say about that. But instead of approaching her in my autopilot mode by speaking directly or speaking analytically, the direct person in me wanting to say, you're out of your mind, the analytical person in me wanting to say, these are all the reasons this is a bad idea, the supportive communicator needed to approach her saying, well, why do you feel like you need to be engaged to this person? Have you really thought this through? Does this person make you happy? Do they treat you well? What are your plans for your life? You see, I'm doing the same thing, still expressing my concerns, but in a way that doesn't put her on the defensive. That's how you need to use supporting communication in interpersonal context. And the last one I wanted to talk about are initiating communicators. These people drive me nuts. And here's the reason why. These are the people that walk into a meeting and they say, all right, you guys, here's our objective, and these are 17 different ways that I've come up with of how we could achieve that objective. What do you think? Or these are the people that get to the 10 minutes before the end of a meeting and say, oh my gosh, you guys, I just had this brilliant idea. Let's scrap everything we've just done and start from here. It's fine. These people are very energetic. They enliven any situation, but they're also very spontaneous. These are the kinds of people that are excellent when it comes to brainstorming and coming up with new ideas. They're not excellent when it comes to finishing off a game plan and just going towards that one single objective, right? And then in an interpersonal context, these are the people that can keep a conversation going for hours and hours, because they're constantly interjecting new ideas, new pieces of thought, a totally different tangent that'll take you on another hour of conversation. I knew a girl like this in college, and I kid you not, there were multiple instances where I would knock on her dorm room door and I'd say, oh, this is going to take a little 15-minute conversation, and I end up listening to a 2-hour summary of the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. It's fine. But I tell you what, that person definitely took me out of my comfort zone. That person definitely made me think about things I never would have considered before. Where my trajectory was an arrow headed for a target, hers was a pinball machine. Accurate comparison. But she definitely made me think about things I never would have considered before. So the point that I want to make about all these styles of communication is that each of them has their skills, their uses, and each of them is valuable in different contexts. But the other thing I really want to express with this speech is that the moment you start to think about what your autopilot style of communication is, what it is that you do naturally, that's when you can take a look at how you can use other styles of communication, tactics that other people use to communicate well in order to enhance the way that you communicate in different circumstances. And from there, that's when you become the best possible communicator that you can be. Thank you for your time.